What's up YouTube, it's Clormo. Yes, I'm back. I was away, I don't know for how long. I apologize beforehand if you have been waiting for videos. But I'm back. A few things happened. If you saw a video already in my channel, the SSD hard disk basically broke down. The PCE card broke down, and it actually gave me some signals. I just didn't pay attention to it, and I lost a lot of stuff. Well, not a lot of stuff really, because I'm pretty good backing up, but it was an annoyance trying to get back, and at least the operating system was lost, and then putting everything on all the settings back together took some time. My car broke down a few days ago. It's fixed now, hopefully, and just overall a lot of things that happened on a personal level that I wasn't able to really be on the flow of the videos. But now I'm back and the flow is back, and what we're gonna do today, or what I'm gonna be talking about today, is covering more of the effects section of Alchemy. Just a few videos left to finish that off, so I'm gonna be a little bit quicker because I want to spend then a few other videos afterwards just doing some more practical stuff with what I have shown already overall in Alchemy. And as usual, if you find some value in this video, please like, subscribe, more importantly, and share it with your friends. You can reach me via this video in the comment section or any of the other pages that's quoted there in the graphic down below. All those other contacts, my webpage or my email. So now I'm gonna jump right into logic. I'm not gonna bore you anymore. And today specifically, I'm gonna be talking about the dynamic and utility effects. I'm just gonna cover them in particular, right, in detail or separately. Like, just as a little recap, we've seen, or I've shown all of these sections: browse, simple, advanced view, all of this stuff, the performance, the arpeggiator, and now we're down to the effects. I gave an overview of that, and now all that's left, it's really just talking about the different type of effects that we have in the pop-up. And really, I'm just gonna leave this at a more overview type of level, and then later on in those specific practice or extended tutorial videos with more practical videos, then given some usage. But anyway, the first things first. So I'm gonna start with the utility effects, and the first one that we have is the amp. But before I go in explain a little bit the amp, all that you need to know first is that the utility and dynamic effects are effects that in this group, in these two groups, right, dynamics and utility effects in this group, are used to control the level or stereo position of the signal. That's why you see in utility it's a panning. There's an amp, obviously, that's going to control the levels. In the dynamics, you have some compressors, which is going to also affect your levels or your volume. The amp parameters, it's pretty simple. That's the amp effect right there, and it only has one knob with a gain. So this allows, this effect allows an auto gate, and if it's modulated by an LFO sequencer, then it's going to allow that auto gate effect. The gain knob will go from in decibels, right, to infinity, and then all the way to at 0 at the other end. So when it's right in the middle, it's going to be kind of like at 50%. Or 100%, I should say. So the 100% would be equivalent to the original input signal level, and 0 is going to be silence, obviously. Then let's see, let's go to, let me just turn off this guy's for 1 and then put none. It's just that the preset brought those. The amp will be the first, and now the panner. That's the panner, and now I can see both of them. The panner parameters, it just allows an auto pan effect. So the amp is going to allow an auto gate, the panning, or the panner is going to allow an auto pan. Then you have this panning knob, and what that is going to do, if it's not intuitive enough, low values are going to boost the left side of the frequencies and cut the right, I should say channels, not frequencies, because we're talking about panning. But low values, right, if I go like that and negative, I'm going to be cutting the left side, or boosting the left and cutting the right channels, and high values are going to do the opposite. So it will be boosting the right and cutting the left channel. 50%, which is the 50% will be equal left and right valence. Then let's go to now the dynamics. You have a fat compressor. So the fat compressor is a dynamics processor based on a soft limiting compression algorithm. You have 3 different options or parameters to choose from or to tweak. You have the amount knob, which is this guy here. It's gonna set the compression amount, and this one has a built-in makeup gain. So the more compression you put, the more apparent loudness you should be getting, because there's gonna be a makeup gain that's built in this compressor that's gonna be tied to the amount that you choose. Then you have a release knob, and this release knob is going to determine how quickly the compression dies out once the signal falls below the threshold. Remember, attack and release from all the other previous videos. It's a similar concept. So then moving from there, what we have is the, let's go to this one down here, dynamics. We have this vintage Alchemy vintage compressor, and the parameters are right here. Actually, I skipped this fat button. Sorry about that. I'm kind of not at my element. I haven't done this in a few weeks, so sorry, and I apologize beforehand as well for that if I'm a little bit off. The fat button is going to add saturation effect, which in turn will give us sort of a different compression color. And by color, what I mean is a sound characteristic, make it more lively. And a more neutral compression can be obtained if this button is off. So when I have this on, I'm going to add saturation, that type of effect into the compression. If it's off, then that's going to give me a more natural compression, which is going to be only determined by the amount and the release knobs, whatever settings I put there. The vintage compressor. Now, it's a dynamics processor based on analog compression hardware, like all very old compression, when these types of things had to be done via hardware. Now you may take all of this for granted, compression and all that stuff. Back in the day, musicians would need hardware to achieve effects, compression, and all sorts of things were controlled by a specific set of hardware. So this is what that's going to mimic. That's why it's called vintage. So it's going to try to mimic that type of compression that was done back in the day via hardware. First thing that we have is a file button, which is a pop-up menu with save commands and presets very similar to every other file button that we can see in Alchemy. At this point, this is just repetitive. You have different presets, you can save whatever tweaks you make, you can copy whatever tweaks you make if you want to paste them in another vintage compressor as well. You can also clear this and make it all go back to 0. First thing we have is an attack knob. It's going to set the time for the compressor to activate when the signal goes above the threshold. The release is going to do the same thing, but it's going to set how quickly that compression dies. The threshold obviously is going to set that threshold level, and that's obviously given in decibels. So your compression is going to activate based on that threshold that you set. So if you have, like right now, there's a 20, I think it's -20. If your signal goes over, it will end up being compressed or reduced in level because you want to keep it at that threshold. If it's below, then your compression is not going to activate, and whatever portion of the signal is at that level at whatever point in time, then there's not going to be any apparent effect. There's also this input gain that's going to set the level of gain that's going to be tied to the compressor input. So in the fat compressor, we already have a makeup gain tied to it. Here we have to use the input gain to try to and the makeup gain itself to try to compensate for those differences from the input signal to the compressed signal. The ratio knob down here is going to set the ratio of compression when going over that threshold. And then the makeup gain is going to set the level of gain that's going to be tied to the compressor output. So the input gain is tied to the compressor input. Makeup gain is tied to the output. So whatever you end up compressing, you can make it up here and make it a little bit loud again if it's being compressed. So you can give that apparent loudness without clipping, but obviously you have to be very careful, like with any other type of compression, not to go crazy and clip all over the place and make your sounds distorted. So now I'm going to tweak a few of these things. Bring the levels down a little bit. Notice that I can, these two kind of work the same way, give me that, help me with that loudness. This is no different from other compression that I've done before, so I'm gonna look at all of them at the same time. So you can automate this as well and modulate it. Notice how I can only listen to the left, can only listen to the right. It's gonna achieve a balance between the two. So a different amount of compression. You can put more compression, make it apparently louder. And that's pretty much it, what you can do with these types of utility and dynamic effects. Again, controlling the level or stereo position of the signal. Nothing different at all from just going and putting some EQing and putting some compression in the actual channel strip, but you can take care of it via Alchemy, route it many different ways, and then once your signal has the sound that you want, you can, for example, render it and make it just a WAV file and get rid of the Alchemy channel strip and save some resources and go into your mixing and mastering session. So always keep that in mind from my previous videos. You want to make sure that you render what you have in the end to save some resources and make sure that you post-process your sound. So I'm gonna stop the video right here. In the next video, then I'm gonna go into a little bit the filter effects. Remember that in this weekend and the next, just going down to 2 videos in English, because that's gonna be the end of Alchemy. But in Spanish, it's gonna be 3 until I catch up, and then once both are together, just gonna go down back to just one topic, covering it in English and Spanish. And I just want to get rid of this as quickly as possible so I can get into the beat making videos, because a few people have asked me about that already, and I realized that I'm lagging based on everything that has happened. I wanted to by this day probably starting that, and well, I'm pretty much behind by a month now. But anyway, I'll see you. Thanks for the support. Very important, before I forget, thank you to everybody that has subscribed recently. The channel has reached, as of this video, 110 subscribers, which is nothing, right, in comparison to the bigger channels or whatever other people that do Logic Pro X tutorials, that, you know, they have their value, they have their audience or whatever, but they really are not sharing, or they're not going as in-depth as I am. And anyway, I'm not hating on those people, on those channels. I follow a lot of them. I'm subscribed to a lot of them, a lot of good stuff in those. But 110 subscribers with what I'm doing, I really have to thank you, because I never expected that to happen as quickly. The goal for the year was to double the subscriber count from last year by the end of the year, which was, I had 50 subscribers at the beginning of this year, so I wanted to just go to 100 at the end of the year. So it's halfway there, and I'm at 110. Hopefully you share this with others that have their same tastes, or that may find this useful, so I can reach even more people. And hopefully someday we can, and I say we because I really would like to you know, have the opportunity to collaborate with some of you in the future and do some stuff. There's a very tricky situation where I live. There's not really like a scene, a hip-hop scene or Logic Pro scene, or I haven't found it really. I've been looking, so maybe it will be up to me to create it. So but in the meantime, maybe I can get to work with some of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for just paying attention and wasting a few minutes with me here. But anyways, I'll see you in the next video, because I've been rambling and making this video longer than it needs to be. Peace out, YouTube.